الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. All praise is due to Allah, and may Allah's peace and blessings be upon His final messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. التوكل على الله, depending on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This issue here, I'm sure that every single one of us here who's in this masjid knows or heard of it. But the whole misconceptions or all of the issues and matters and problems fall into applying this. Usually when you see people depending on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they're on one of two ends. No one's well, at least most of the people are on two ends. Some of them, when you ask them about depending on Allah and putting trust in Allah, it is just a concept that they know about, but they never act on it. And another group will come and say, well, yes, I depend on Allah and I trust in Allah, but when you look at their actions, they're not acting on causes. And that's also a problem. And we will explain how can a person depend on Allah and what is the right course, the right path, and trying to implement this in our lives, depending on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and trusting in Allah. Allah Azza wa Jal has said in the Quran, first we'll show the importance of depending on Allah, relying on Allah. Allah Azza wa Jal has said in the Quran, وَمَن يَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ فَهُوَ حَسْبُهُ. And whoever relies upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is sufficient for him. Look, if you depend on Allah, if you truly trust on Allah, He will aid you. And that will be more than sufficient for you. And what's interesting, Ibn al-Qayyim mentioned something very interesting. He said that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded His servant to move a mountain from one place to the other, and then He aided him, He helped him, he would be able to do so, moving a whole mountain. So the whole secret is depending on Allah. And we look at the early scholars and the companions. They used to do a lot of things in their day. They used to achieve a lot of things. And they all had families to take care of, and they all had jobs, they all had work, yet they used to do amazing things and accomplishments. How? How is this even possible? Well, because they depended on Allah, and Allah aided them. So that's the secret. And if we want to look at the right way to depend on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, end of the day, it's by combining two things. Relying on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala after acting on causes. أخذ بالأسباب. And to explain this point, I'd like to go over a hadith that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said. He said, لو أنكم كنتم توكلون على الله حق توكله لرزقتم كما يرزق الطير تغدو خماصا وتروح بطانا. The Prophet ﷺ has said that if you people depended on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with true dependence and relied on Him subhanahu wa ta'ala, then He would have provided you and given you provisions and all the things that you need, just like He provides. And then He gave an example, الطير, the bird. He said, تغدو خماصا وتروح بطانا. It starts the day, it leaves the nest, hungry, with an empty stomach, and it comes at the end of the day filled. It had enough food for itself, and it has enough food to feed the chicks. Subhanallah. So the Prophet ﷺ in this hadith, he said, if you depended on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with true dependence, and then he gave an example of the bird. Now let's look at this bird. When it depended on Allah, so this bird depended on Allah. Did it sit in the nest in the morning and stay till afternoon waiting and saying, Ya I'm depending on Allah? Or did it go from the start, from the early morning, it went to search for food? So there's action. So there are actions, there is acting on causes. And that dependence on Allah, the fruit of it was Allah gave it the provisions that it needed. It gave it the food that it wanted. at the end of the day. So this is how we should be. A lot of us, we need to provide for our families, okay? And we need to provide for those we support. And this is part of our obligations. At the same time, we have to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and do our, religious obligations. And many people would be overburdened. This is too much and I'm confused and things are not working out. Take it easy. وَمَن يَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ فَهُوَ حَسْبُهُ. So we act on causes. You search for a job. You do like everyone else does. But the difference is you rely and depend on Allah. How do we rely and depend on Allah? This is of the actions of the heart and not the tongue. It's not about saying tawakkal to Allah, tawakkal to Allah. It's about the heart. You truly depend on Allah. And you know that all good is with Allah's hand. Okay, whatever you're seeking, it's with Allah. And this gives us another example where a man, he was holding the rope. He tied the camel, he was holding the rope. And he asked the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, I think it was before entering the masjid, he said, should I tie the rope and depend on Allah? Or should I depend on Allah and release the rope? You know what the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ told him? اعقلها وتوكل. Tie the rope and depend on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So depending on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't go against or doesn't opposes acting on causes. You combine these two things. You depend on Allah and you act on causes. Okay? You want provision, you want food, you want money, you go and search for a job. You go and act and you depend on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He will make it easy for you and He will guide you to its best. So when depending on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there are two things to look at. To look at the worldly causes and to look at the religious causes. What do I mean by that? This example that I've given, searching for a job, for example, or searching for a wife or whatever it is that we're trying to deal with, you act on the causes, okay? You look for a job, you search here, you put your CV here and there. This is the worldly causes. But at the same time, you do not neglect the religious causes. What religious causes? You make dua. You ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sincerely. Because many people forget this. I told you there are two ends. They either depend on the worldly causes or they neglect them. And again, people depend on religious causes or neglect them. Religious causes. Someone comes sometimes outside the masjid asking me for help, or with a group of brothers. They're asking us for help. We have 5 dirhams. I go, subhanAllah, the masjid was behind us. This is the house of Allah. Why are you asking us? Did you ask Allah? This is the first thing that you should do. Who's responsible for your provisions? It's not me. It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's the Razzaq. Okay? The same thing when you're looking for a job or trying to do something, you should always ask Allah, always making dua. And never be too hasty, saying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not reply. He did not accept my dua. No, be patient. Patience should be there. But you should always ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In every rak'ah you should pray. When you pray, you ask Allah in sujood. At night, before Fajr, if you wake up, you raise your hands and you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is the time that dua is more likely to be accepted. So you combine two things, religious causes and worldly causes. Now, of the things that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ has taught us, when leaving the house, what did the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ teach us? To say, Bismillah, tawakkaltu ala Allah, wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. The Prophet ﷺ said, إذا خرج الرجل من بيته فقال بسم الله توكلت على الله ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله, then it is said, then هديت وكفيت ووقيت. So if a person comes before leaving the house, he says Bismillah, in the name of Allah. So you're asking the blessings of Allah. توكلت على الله, I depend on Allah, I rely on Allah. ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله, no power and no strength except with the will of Allah. Then what is said to him? هديت وكفيت ووقيت. You're guided, you're sufficed, Allah Azza wa Jal is sufficient for you. ووقيت, and you're protected. Some say this is the devil who says this. And then the devil comes and he says to another devil, how do we deal with a man who is guided, protected, defended, sufficed by Allah? How do we deal with him? How can we misguide him? How can we do anything? The shaitan can't do anything when you say these words. And this is part of tawakkul ala Allah. Acting on these things. The Prophet taught us. So when you leave the house, you say, Bismillah, tawakkaltu ala Allah, wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Very simple. Keep it part of your life. And another amazing dua is Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakil. Ibn Abbas said that Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakil, Ibrahim alayhi salam said it when he was thrown into the fire. And the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam said it when the people came to him, warning him, saying, Inna an-nasa qad jama'u lakum fakhshawhum fazadahum imana wa qalu hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakil. So what does it mean? It means depend on Allah. It means, Hasbunallah, that Allah is sufficient for us. Wa ni'mal wakil, and the best supporter is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? So again, this is a dua that we should be saying it at times of hardship or whenever we find something difficult. This is part of isti'ana, asking aid from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakil. Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakil. Keep on saying this. And inshallah you'll be getting the aid. And this is what the prophets were saying. Ibrahim alayhi salam, when he was thrown into the fire. And what happened? The fire did not have that effect. It did not burn him. Bardan wa salama. And the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he said that, when they warned him that, that those people came with armies, they said, the Prophet and those with him, Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakil. When they went out, that army retreated. They got the reward, and alhamdulillah, they didn't need to fight. So Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakil. So depending on Allah, to summarize, depending on Allah, we combine the worldly causes and the religious causes, both. We make dua and we take action. And we combine the two. And inshallah, this is the best way. And remember to say, Bismillah, tawakkaltu ala Allah, wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. And to always ask the aid of Allah by saying, Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakil. هذا والله أعلم وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. جزاكم الله خير.